on. So we got to talk about what's going on right now inside of Bitcoin because as you guys can see, we have actually broken out of our rising wedge. Now, I mentioned this inside of the last video, well, the last live stream, how I believe that we're actually about to have a drop all the way down to 50K. There's a lot of stuff that kind of confirms this for me. But then again, we have some choppy price action here, so I decided to, talk about this. The first thing that we're actually seeing here on the charts is the MACD is actually kind of starting to look strong, right? So we've had a lot of buying pressure bringing us all the way up here, right? So we've had some bullish divergence here, and for those of you that don't know, as you can see here, you can save this chart if you want. But as you can see here, bullish divergence is higher lows on the MACD. So when you start to see these higher lows on the MACD, you know that you're actually having bullish divergence. You see the higher lows followed by the lower lows on the charts. So the MACD has higher lows, right? And then the actual chart prices, the actual candlesticks have lower lows. So that's pretty much what we're seeing here. As you can see here on the MACD, we're seeing higher lows for the charts on the MACD. And then the prices is kind of, just making those lower lows here. They're kind of, coming down lower and lower. So what we're looking for now is going to be some type of big pullback coming in, and maybe it's going to be from news because as we can see, like everything that's going on with the news with the US and Iran, if a war just springs out of nowhere, then that could be really bad. And then on top of that, we have stuff like this: Trump imposing 10% global tariffs on all countries and says tariffs will remain in place despite the Supreme Court ruling. And remember, when the Supreme Court ruled it, they ruled it as illegal for those tariffs to happen. I'm gonna play this right here though. So let's have this play right here. And mind you, like this just happened.
Therefore,
Let's play it.
effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. Therefore, effective immediately.
So yeah, he said effective immediately, and it's going to be placed over all the tariffs that there already are. Remember what happened last time we had massive tariffs imposed on everybody? That actually happened around close to the all-time highs, close to it, but not necessarily all the way there. So let's pull up the daily chart and look back here at what happened. Actually, it's a much better view if you look at the S&P 500 when that actually happened. So it was right around this time right here. So on the S&P 500 when Trump started imposing tariffs, it was right around here, February all the way till April. We had a huge drawdown in pretty much everything from stocks to crypto. Everything went down. The S&P 500 went down 20% when Trump started the first tariff war. So that was a whole 20% drop. So if hypothetically speaking that were to happen again, we could see something very similar. See, the next tariff war that Trump had started was the last one. It was somewhere around this area again. If you look back over here for 2025, it was pretty much this drop here, and it was a dramatic drop. People were over, they were over dramatizing it, and people do it all the time, right? They do it all the time. It happened last year around the same time, so this time it's probably gonna end up happening again. So I would say prepare for that. Uh, with Bitcoin, when that happened, it didn't really affect Bitcoin as much, but it still went down 30%. And Bitcoin goes down twice as much as the SPY. So went down about 30%. So we can bet that something could start happening now. The stock market is closed right now, which could be one of the reasons why we're not seeing a massive drop coming in. Either way, it's not a good time for that to be happening, especially considering what's already been happening inside of the market. And currently, right now, when you look at it, we're going through like this consolidation phase. So still, as you can see here, rising wedges are bearish patterns. So we still have the possibility of continuing downwards because as you can see out of this rising wedge, we've kind of went sideways and started consolidating after we had that drop. So it's a very, very difficult area to kind of judge where we're going. As you can see here, the Illinois governor sends an invoice to President Trump demanding $8.6 billion in refunds. Gold has been taking off. Gold has been going up a lot despite this because of countries all around the world are trying to stack gold. And that's pretty much because, the US dollar is starting to look volatile, especially with Trump doing what he's doing. So a lot of people are kind of scared to, get in on the US dollar. But I think that this is actually a bear trap or a bull trap here on gold. And part of the reason why I think this is a bear trap here, because if you actually look at this, like look at the MACD, like the last time we had the buying pressure here, very small. This time, very small. What does that look like to you? This looks almost like bearish divergence on the MACD. So we started to create higher highs here, but the MACD started to print out lower highs, which is a clear sign of bearish divergence here. So let me go ahead and pull that back up here. So if you look right here, bearish divergence. And then what happened during this time? We start to see the MACD start to create those higher highs. Now, that's one thing. That's one way we can look at it. But then we can also look at it like this. Well, what if it's creating bullish divergence as well? So that's where it gets kind of hard to track. And then also ascending triangles are bullish signals. So gold could actually be prepping for its next breakout if you look at it from that perspective. Because this right here is a clear-cut signal of a ascending triangle. So we actually might be prepping for the next breakout on gold for anyone who's looking to benefit off that. And then we also have silver kind of trying to make the comeback right behind gold. But yeah, we've been seeing some big pushes in the market when it comes to gold. So yeah, that's just a little update on gold to show you guys what's going on. We might see it pushing above $508, the previous all-time high. So, there's a possibility that it could drop, but there's also the possibility that this is the start of a breakout. If this doesn't happen, then it was a bull trap. Or if it does happen, or I mean, if it doesn't happen, yeah, if it doesn't happen, then it was a bull trap, right? Because as you can see here, this is clearly a ascending triangle. But when you look at the divergence on the MACD, it almost looks like we're creating another pullback inside of the making. So we got to see what this is, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. But kind of getting back over to Bitcoin and looking at this, this is the daily chart on Bitcoin. So I know it's probably hard for some people to see with all this stuff on here. So I guess I'll take it off for the people that can't see. But as you can see here with the daily chart on Bitcoin, like I was saying before, there's a possibility that it could continue upwards. This is the % trend exhaustion. As you can see, the short-term trend's coming up. Long-term trend is kind of still trading sideways. So we could be having a breakout soon, but then again, you could never be too sure. Like all it takes is Trump to do one thing that the market doesn't like, and then we could start dumping again from there. And we're also coming off of a huge oversold area, which is another thing that could cause the markets to continue upwards. So just based off that alone, all the selling that we've had previously, this could be the start of another breakout. But that's just the daily chart. See, then when you pull up the weekly chart tells you something completely different, right? And that's why I've been saying, like, I think it's not ready to go up yet. I think it's going to be going up at 50K. But then again, when you do the analysis and you break it down, there's a possibility that it could, come up more. So technically, when I look at the technicals, I see bullish price action coming in very soon when I look at the technicals. But when you look at it fundamentally, it looks very bearish fundamentally. Like when you look at all the fundamentals, bearish. But when you look at the current price action, that things are like the actual technical analysis, it kind of looks a little bullish. So, that's where you got to make your own choice and your own discernment, right? People can't make those choices for you. You got to make your own choice and see what you think is going to happen. But what happened during the last bear market, this is the weekly chart, the percent return exhaustion looks the exact same. Look at this area right here compared to this area right here. It looks almost the exact same. The blue line is the long-term trend. The long-term trend continued downwards, whereas the short-term trend had a short-term breakout. For example, the relief rally around the same time, around February, the end of February, starts to go up, and then March, April, then it comes down. So there's a possibility that we get this relief rally on the short-term trend as the long-term trend continues to trend downwards, and then we'll see both of them come down right here. So March and April might actually start to go up just a little bit, but probably not by much. And it's probably going to be like a big, like a small, not big, like a small relief rally possibly in April. And then it's going to probably end up continuing downwards from there. Because as you can see, like when that happened over here, you can see it wasn't that big of a deal. Like it wasn't really that significant. So let's go over here to 2022. Somewhere around this area right here is where that happened. So it's kind of hard to tell and see on the charts. But yeah, somewhere around that area, like right around here. And that was that relief rally there. And then as you can see here, we had a small little, not necessarily breakout, but we had something small, but we haven't really had like an actual relief rally. So there's a possibility that we could end up seeing that coming in soon. And then we have the MACD over here on the weekly chart, very much oversold, but we could still start seeing more selling pressure coming in. And this is the perfect example of bearish divergence that happened before we had that massive sell-off. And this is the bearish divergence. You get the higher highs and then you get the lower lows on the MACD, which is your bearish divergence. So any moment now, we could start creating bullish divergence. This is the perfect example of bullish divergence. You got the higher lows right here on the MACD, and then it switches into buying pressure. And then that would be your bullish divergence. So that is what I'm seeing here. So right now we could start seeing some buying pressure starting to come in for the charts because the selling pressure is pretty massive right now. So yeah, that's what we're gonna end up seeing here on Bitcoin. And then just looking at the short term, this 30-minute chart does look like we're gonna get another pullback here on Bitcoin. So I'm just waiting to see what happens. Everything is mixed and in the wind right now. So there's no definite answers on what's about to happen. And this person, they're saying that they think it's about to take off because of what happened in 2020. And then this person, we're going to 48,000. There is nothing you can do about it. So they're either super bearish or they're super bullish, which is why I think it's best to be in the middle right now. The way I'm explaining it is very 50-50. If you're super bearish and then it takes off, you're going to get screwed if you're trying to short. If you're super bullish and it dumps, then you're going to get screwed because, you're just trying to long. So it's best to just stay neutral. So then when it actually happens, you just get in as it starts to happen. But yeah, you'll miss a little bit of it. But look, if we break past these levels up here on Bitcoin. Like, right, if we get back to 70K, then we gotta see if we can get up to 73K. But if we get back to at least 70K, it's probably gonna push higher to 73. So then you could probably get in at 70, wait, see what happens. If it dumps from there, you could sell, take a little loss if it goes below your buy price. Or you could just wait until something else happens, right? You could wait until it dumps, and then let's say it passes 65K. Well, if it passes down below 65, then it's probably going to come down to 60. So then you could just, open a short at 65 going down to 60 if it goes below 65. So, it's always about waiting for confirmation when you're trading. It's always about waiting for confirmation. Now, Michael Saylor, he's saying if it's not going to zero, it's going to a million, which I think that's pretty stupid. Like, it's pretty stupid to say because obviously it's not going to go all the way to zero, obviously. Now, the only way that happens is if it comes out, if it's like comes out that Epstein really did not create Bitcoin, but he did fund the creation of Bitcoin. And a lot of people are speculating and saying, well, it was the CIA that actually created Bitcoin. It was the CIA and then the NSA. Like, they just collaborated. They created Bitcoin because they knew the banking system was going to change. So they wanted to get ahead of it, and they wanted to create the new financial system and create the new world order. So that's another speculation, which, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's a possibility. And we do know that Epstein had some connections with the U.S. government. So why would he not have connections with the CIA as well? And people are saying he was a Mossad agent for Israel. So I mean, they do collaborate. Like, the USA kind of bends the knee to Israel for everything. We're about to go to war with Iran for Israel. So there's there's like no doubt in anyone's mind at this point that there's some collaborations there between the CIA, Epstein, Israel. All together collectively, the elites of the world collectively created Bitcoin. They're not smart enough to do it themselves, but they have the money and they have the power, because the elites are not really that smart. They just have the money and the power to control the smart people to create something like Bitcoin. So if we do get some type of news, which I don't think that we will, coming out that happened, which I don't think that we will. We haven't gotten the news on what happened on 9/11, but we all know, we all have a good idea of what happened, but we'll never get the definitive answer. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin. We're never going to get the definitive answer of who made it, which is exactly why it's never going to go to zero. So I think it's kind of stupid for Michael Saylor to say if it's not going to zero, it's going to million. Like, of course it's not going to zero. Now, whether or not it goes to a million, that's good. Only time will tell. But it's definitely not going to zero. But we'll see. He just wants his Bitcoin treasury company, MicroStrategy, to go up. And I heard that he's been, continuing to dilute the people that are invested in it. He's been continuing to do that. And yeah, so we'll see what happens with MicroStrategy, and we'll see what happens with Bitcoin. But currently, right now, it's not looking too good for anything, right? And like I was saying before, gold is looking bullish because we have that ascending triangle, but you don't want to get bull trapped because ascending triangles are never 100%. I think it's like a 72 or a 78% win rate to the upside when it comes to ascending triangles, but it's not 100%. So that's just something that you got to keep in mind. But yeah, anyways, this is all I got for you guys today. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. Check out the link in the description. I'm going to start streaming on Kick, trying to get at least 10 to 20 followers on there before I do start streaming, so we have a little bit of an audience there. And then anyone that doesn't go and follow it, they're just not going to see my live streams, because I'm not going to live stream on YouTube. YouTube doesn't really pay you much for live streams. Like, for instance, I had a CPM of like $22 for my live stream, but I had an RPM of $4, which means YouTube's getting paid $22 per 1,000 views on my live stream, but they're only paying me $4. per thousand views on my live stream, which means that they're taking over 70% of what I make on the live stream, which is actually crazy. But that's neither here nor there. Kick is a 95-5 split, so 95% of what I make on Kick goes to me, 5% goes to Kick. So do me a favor, follow my Kick account, and I really want to do daily live streams, but only if I'm compensated, because people obviously aren't donating to the live streams. They're not doing super chats or none of that. So the only way I can combat that is by going to Kick, getting the Kick, the KCIP, which is the Kick Partner Program, and getting the 95-5 split from Kick. So go ahead, check that out. It's the only way live streaming is going to be worth it for me, because I'm not about to stream for 5 hours and get $2, because that's exactly what happened during the last stream. And no one donated. $2 came from the YouTube ads, and then YouTube made all the money. Right? But this is all I got for you guys today. As always, I'll be back with another video.